Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Baggott. I'm the founder of Car Dealer Magazine. Today we're talking used car valuations for September with Derren Martin from Cap HPI. Derren, how are you?
Yeah, good. Good to see you, James.
Good to see you. Yeah, lots going on out there in the market. Busy month, isn't it, for new cars, which means lots of used cars entering the market too. What's happening out there?
Yeah, obviously September, a pivotal month for new cars, and we're eagerly anticipating the month end figures. See what the see who's done what, and see what the share is for battery electric vehicles as well. But overall, it's been a really steady month for the used car market. Continuation of a theme, and yeah, long may that continue. But yeah, it's all positive at the moment actually, and has been for most of the year.
We're sort of getting that feeling. There's a number of reports coming out at the moment saying actually sometimes some used car prices have actually risen in the last month. What are you seeing? What do your figures show?
Yeah, so our overall at the 3 year benchmark is a 0.2% increase. So it's obviously quite unusual for values to go up during a month, but when you look back at previous years, for it to happen during September isn't that unusual. So we have put values up during September quite regularly. Last year was actually a bit of an outlier because if you cast your mind back, values were already dropping quite considerably, and then we had that sort of really volatile final quarter. But yeah, overall, we've got an increase of zero point 0.2. Obviously, lots of moving parts within that, but it's been positive. I think with it, we have obviously our live product started off probably similar to August, where values dropped slightly, but then as the month progressed, it strengthened. Conversion rates at auction seem to have strengthened as well, from what we've seen, and the dealers are pretty upbeat. So yeah, there are certainly a few models that have gone up in value.
We've been talking about this on our podcast last week about used car values and the fact that we've been talking quite a lot, haven't we, this year about the potential for used car prices to rise and the reasons for that. Perhaps we could just go over that for those people watching about, why are we seeing this strength in the market?
For me, it feels that what happened in the final quarter of last year and a little bit before that, so maybe the last 6 months of last year, that took some of the heat out of the used car prices that went up by 30% in 2021 with the semiconductor crisis. We had a very stable 2020 when COVID hit. Probably one of the few areas of the world that was stable was used car pricing during that time. 2021 they went up incredibly, and then they bundled along at that level, but it felt as though used cars were quite expensive. So some of the heat got taken out of it in the last 6 months of last year, and this year it's felt as though values are reasonable for the dealers to buy at, for consumers to buy at. So it's been very stable, and one of the backdrops of that is the shortage of 3 and 4 year old cars in the market because new car registrations in 2020, 2021 were so low, even going into sort of 2022 as well, were low compared to the previous years pre-COVID. There's less used cars in the market. If you look at the 4 years pre-COVID and the 4 years since COVID, it's 3.1 million fewer cars were registered. So that has to have an impact. And the strength that we're seeing is really that demand is stable. Demand is pretty good. Dealers have had a good summer. And obviously that's kicked on a little bit in September, but there's not enough cars out there for them to buy that sort of prime 3 and 4 year old stock. So that's keeping prices high, especially cars in good condition as well. That's really key. They tend to be fighting over the same petrol cars, price point cars that are going to be moved quickly off their forecourts.
Yeah, I've certainly seen that when I've been looking at the auctions, trying to stock stuff for the Clever Car collection. What about those individual fuel types? Then let's talk about how they dropped in the last month or rose. Petrol, diesel, electric, hybrid. Where are we at?
Well, the big story really is that electric vehicles on average, are our strongest sector. Sorry, strongest fuel type. They've increased by 1%. It's the first time they've increased in over 2 years.
Wow.
Some real positivity in there, and I think we've all got a bit of a duty in the industry to sort of push EVs a little bit more with consumers and send the good news stories, because everyone's got a view on electric vehicles. Everyone will have a reason not to buy one potentially. We think they're great value now. Obviously, this is talking in averages, and there are still some models that are priced way above the ICE equivalents, but there are also some that are way below the ICE equivalents. And we've sort of run the data on, say, you look at an I-Pace versus an F-Pace, well, the I-Pace is worth 14 grand less. That looks now a really good value car. So a lot of those electric vehicles are now really good value. They move quicker off forecourts. We're looking at them selling sort of within 25 days from the data we've seen, especially at that sort of 3-year-old point. Price point under 20k seems really good as well. That's a real sort of sweet spot, and I think the more dealers that see these opportunities, they will start to dip in. We still see only around 15% of independents have advertised an EV over the last 6 months. Less than half of franchise dealers the same. So there's an opportunity here for the dealers to buy some cars at reasonable prices and to then move them on at good prices with strong margins as well.
Yeah, 1% rise. I mean, that's quite a turnaround in fortunes for these models that were dropping huge sums at the back end of last year and going into this year. What about petrol diesel then, Derren? How's that performed?
So they've both gone up as well, but only negligibly. But even that's a strong, when you're comparing to EVs, it doesn't look quite as strong. But yeah, 0.1 for petrol, 0.2 for diesel. So they're still performing well. All of the fuel types have registered an increase. So there's nothing that's kind of not in demand there. The hybrids have gone up as well, and that's still a good halfway house for those not prepared to quite go completely fully EV. So yeah, been really strong. Petrol vehicles have been strong over the whole summer, and yeah, continue to be so. So it's across the board really on those fuel types, but EVs stand out because of 2 years of drops, 60% taken out of the values in that time. It's kind of no wonder that dealers are a little bit wary about them, but they now look really good value, as I said.
Yeah, that's interesting because there's a lot of dealers who were put off buying them, wasn't there, for some time, and maybe they have actually hit rock bottom and have started moving up. What do you think?
Yeah, well, some of them probably have, some of them haven't, and that's probably you've got to look at the detail behind them. So, yeah, some of the models like the Model 3, we've put that up this month. Some vehicles that have come down quite a lot in the past. C4 Electric's had a pretty difficult time of it, but that's gone back up. As I mentioned, iPace as well. That's performing quite well. So, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that sort of hockey stick effect from some that now just look really good value. And as I say, if they're within that sort of sweet spot, then they're selling well. Younger EVs are a little bit of a different story. So they're competing with new. They have increased, but only by 0.2%. There's some good new car offers out there. Obviously, dealers, manufacturers chasing the ZEV mandate. So that's and they're more expensive. So if dealers are looking to enter the market, they probably want to be looking at that maybe 3 or 4 year old vehicle rather than the late plate ones, because they're not moving quite as quickly off the forecourts.
And what about price points in terms of used cars? Where's the real strength there? What's shifting at the moment?
It remains that sort of 15 grand below. There's some good vehicles that sort of at 8, 9, 10 grand as well, even including some EVs around that mark as well. If you want it for your second car, there's some vehicles that are priced there. That does remain the sweet spot. Petrol cars massively in demand. Electric vehicles, we get asked so much about them and we talk about them so much, still less than 5% of the market. So it's not a huge area, but it is growing. But yeah, anything kind of petrol, smaller bread and butter cars around those sort of 15k sweet spots there, then they do really well.
And what are you predicting for the rest of this year then, Derren? I mean, what do you think we're going to see in this final quarter when it comes to valuations? Are they going to continue to go up?
I don't think they'll go up. I think they will be stronger than normal seasonality. Values tend to drop around this time, as you mentioned right at the start. Cars start to come back into the market from new car activity. That doesn't tend to happen until October. So we're kind of looking at it from now and seeing whether those values, what that volume does to values. We're predicting a small drop in October, but every month this year has been stronger than the seasonal average with regards to values, and we're predicting that to happen again. So last year values dropped by 10.5% in the next 3 months. We're predicting to drop maybe 2%, something like that. So and overall, if that happens, you would be looking at a used car being worth more at the end of the year than the equivalent age and mileage used car at the start of the year, which is unusual. So it won't be by much, maybe 0.5%, something like that. But overall, we would expect values to have dropped between 3 and 5% over the course of a year. So it's a lot stronger than that.
So we're basically saying that people's cars on their forecourts and are worth the same at the end of this year that they were at the start. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's a strong year. Yeah, if you compare the same age and mileage vehicle, yeah, yeah. So they obviously there's loads of different moving parts within this as well, and there'll be some electric vehicles that obviously won't be because they felt a lot of pain. But if you're looking at a petrol vehicle, price point, small, super mini city car, even sort of lower medium, than they probably have done. Certainly, yeah, the popular vehicles. And it has been kept strong by that shortage of stock that we've talked about, and strong consumer demand. I think people have got used to the cost of living concerns. It remains a necessity purchase. I think in the final quarter as well, we'll see more dealers out buying for January than there were last year. Everyone was very wary as we went through the final quarter last year. I don't think they'll be buying in bulk because what we've seen, a bit of a theme of this year, is that dealers are buying to replenish. They're not massively stocking up. Cost of stocking's high, so they are keeping on, sort of keeping it ticking over really, and we might see that again. But I think there will be some opportunities to buy this year because January could be quite strong as well.
And just looking ahead into 2025, what are you expecting we're going to see next year? I mean, is this strength going to continue?
I think it will. But we've still got that shortage of vehicles. Nothing there's nothing sort of coming at us that will that we can see that will change all of that. But you never know. We've had a lot of things thrown at us over the last few years: war in Ukraine, obviously COVID, all of these sorts of things, shortages in the new car market. But overall, we are predicting a strong year next year. But the ZEV mandate remains sort of the fly in the ointment, and discounting around that will cars get pushed? Will pre-reg sort of reappear in bigger numbers? All of these sorts of things. And at the end of the day, the market is dependent on responsible remarketing. So if companies have a lot of cars, and they release them all in one hit, then that can affect the market. So as long as everybody's sensible, I feel for the manufacturers because they've got some tough targets to hit with the ZEV mandate. But all things considered, we are expecting it to be another strong start to next year and hopefully continuing through the year.
Derren, thank you very much for the update. It's massively appreciated as always, and look forward to chatting to you next month.
Cheers, pleasure.
Thank you. That's Derren Martin from Experts Cap HPI. Now, for more videos like this one, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified when they next come out. For the very latest on used car prices, check out our website. It's cardealermagazine.co.uk and click on the used car tab at the top of the page. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.